Yuna stood at the entrance of the Galactic Naval Academy and tried not to stare. The building stretched up so high that she couldn't see the top. Ships flew overhead in perfect formations. Alien students walked past her in groups, talking and laughing in languages she was still learning to understand. She was the first human to attend this academy in 30 years. The last human cadet had dropped out after 2 weeks. Everyone remembered that. The registration hall was enormous. Yuna walked to the desk where a tall alien with blue skin and 3 eyes processed her documents. The alien looked at her file and then looked at her. Its middle eye blinked slowly. "You are from Earth," it said. Not a question, a statement. "Yes," Yuna replied. "A death world." The alien's voice carried something between fear and fascination. "Your gravity is twice what we consider safe. Your atmosphere would poison most species here. Your wildlife actively hunts sentient beings." Yuna didn't know what to say to that. It was all true. She just nodded. The alien handed her a data pad and a room assignment. "Good luck, human. You will need it." Her dormitory was in the East Wing. The room was small but clean. It had a bed, a desk, and a window that showed the stars beyond the station. Yuna unpacked her few belongings and sat on the bed. It was too soft. Everything here was too soft, too light, too safe. She would get used to it. The next morning, Yuna attended her first class. Combat Theory with instructor Velrix. The instructor was massive, nearly 3 meters tall with skin that looked like purple crystal. Its voice rumbled like thunder when it spoke. "Welcome to Combat Theory," Velrix said. "In this class, you will learn how warriors think. You will learn how to read a battlefield. You will learn how to survive." Yuna sat in the back row. She opened her notebook and prepared to take notes. Around her, other students whispered and pointed. She heard the word human several times. She heard Deathworlder even more. A student near the front raised one of his 4 arms. He had iridescent scales that caught the light. "Instructor, is it true that humans can survive injuries that would kill most species?" Velrix looked at Yuna. Everyone looked at Yuna. "That is correct," the instructor said. "Humans have redundant systems, rapid healing, and high pain tolerance. They evolved on a world where survival required extreme resilience." "Then why did the last human quit?" another student asked. This one had gray fur and large ears that twitched when she spoke. "That," Velrix said slowly, "is an excellent question." Yuna kept her eyes on her notebook and said nothing. The class moved on. Velrix explained basic tactical concepts. Yuna wrote everything down. She noticed that most other students didn't take notes. They just listened or recorded the lecture on their devices. But Yuna preferred to write. It helped her remember. After class, students filed out in groups. Yuna walked alone. She didn't mind. She had come here to learn, not to make friends. The next class was physical training. The gym was divided into sections based on gravity tolerance. Most students trained in the low-gravity zone. A few trained in the medium zone. Only one section was set to Earth normal gravity. Yuna walked to that section. She was the only one there. Instructor Kale, a lean alien with silver skin, approached her. "You understand this gravity will be comfortable for you but challenging for others, yes?" "Yes," Yuna said. "Good. If you train only in comfort, you learn nothing. I want you to also practice in the medium and low zones. You need to understand how others move." Yuna nodded. That made sense. She spent an hour running, lifting, and practicing zero-gravity maneuvering. The zero-gravity section was interesting. Most students struggled with spatial orientation. They got dizzy, confused about which way was up. Yuna had trained for this. She moved through the course smoothly, using handholds and momentum to navigate. A group of students watched her from the observation window. She heard them talking. "She moves like a predator." Earth creatures are all predators. Even the plants are dangerous. "I heard humans used to hunt animals twice their size with nothing but pointed sticks." "That's ridiculous." "It's true. They're persistent hunters. They just follow their prey until it collapses from exhaustion." Yuna finished the course and moved on. She didn't correct them. Let them think what they wanted. Lunch was in the massive cafeteria. Hundreds of students from dozens of species ate together. The noise was overwhelming. Yuna got her food, a protein blend formulated for human digestion, and found an empty table in the corner. She ate slowly and watched. There was a social hierarchy here, she realized. The popular students sat in the center. They were loud and confident. Around them sat others who wanted to be noticed. The outer tables held students who were content to be left alone. One student stood out. He had iridescent scales and 4 arms. He sat at the center table, surrounded by admirers. Everyone seemed to know him. When he spoke, others listened. Yuna made a note in her mental catalog. That one was important, a leader or at least someone with influence. After lunch, she had simulator training. This was what she had come for. Real pilots trained in simulators before they ever touched a real ship. The simulator bay held 30 pods. Each pod was a perfect replica of a fighter cockpit. Students would climb in and the pod would run combat scenarios. Instructor Velrix was there again. "Pair up," the instructor ordered. "You will run a basic navigation course. 1 pilot, 1 navigator." Students quickly formed pairs. Yuna stood alone. Everyone had paired with people they already knew. Velrix noticed. "Yuna, you will pair with Deho." The student with 4 arms and iridescent scales looked unhappy. "Instructor, I prefer to work with Taewon." "And I prefer students who follow orders," Velrix said. "Deho, Yuna, Pod 7. Deho walked to the pod without looking at Yuna. She followed silently. Inside the pod, the cockpit was cramped. Deho took the pilot seat. Yuna sat behind him as navigator. Her job was to read the sensors and guide him through the course. "Don't mess this up, human," Deho said. "I have the top scores in this class." Yuna said nothing. She activated her console and studied the course layout. The simulation began. Asteroids appeared on the screen. Debris fields, sensor-blocking clouds. Deho flew aggressively, his 4 arms working the controls with impressive coordination. "Left," Yuna said quietly. "Debris at 10 degrees, Deho corrected course. "Asteroid cluster ahead." "Navigate right," he did. They completed the course in good time. When they exited the pod, Deho didn't thank her. He just walked away to join his friends. A female student with pale blue skin approached Yuna. "I'm Hyejin," she said. Her voice was soft, almost musical. "You did well in there." "Thank you," Yuna said. "Deho can be difficult. Don't take it personally. He's like that with everyone new." Hyejin hesitated. "Why don't you talk more?" "In class, I mean." Yuna considered the question. "I'm here to learn, not to talk." Hyejin looked confused but nodded. "Well, if you ever want to study together, let me know." "Okay," Yuna said. That night, Yuna returned to her room. She reviewed her notes from all the classes. She thought about what she had observed. The social dynamics, the training methods, the way different species moved and thought. Earth had taught her to be observant. On Earth, the careless died. Predators learned patterns. Prey learned escape routes. Humans learned both. She would watch. She would learn. And when the time came, she would be ready. Before sleep, Yuna returned to the simulator bay. It was empty now, late at night. She signed into a pod and started a combat scenario. Not the beginner level, the hardest difficulty available. The simulation was brutal. Enemy fighters appeared from all directions. She died within minutes. She started again, and again, and again. By the time she returned to her room, it was nearly morning. She had failed the scenario 47 times, but each time she lasted a little longer. Each time she learned something new. Yuna lay down on her too-soft bed and closed her eyes. Tomorrow would bring more classes, more watching, more learning. She smiled in the darkness. Let them think she was quiet and weak. Let them underestimate the human. They would learn the truth eventually. 3 weeks had passed since Yuna arrived at the academy. She had fallen into a routine. Wake early, train alone, attend classes, watch everyone, train late into the night. She spoke only when asked direct questions. She ate alone. She studied alone. The other students had stopped trying to include her. That was fine with Yuna. Today was different. Today they would fly real ships for the first time. The hangar bay was enormous. Rows of sleek fighters lined the deck, each one painted in academy colors. Instructor Velrix stood before the assembled class. "Today you begin live fire exercises," the instructor announced. "You will fly in pairs. You will execute basic combat maneuvers. This is not a competition. This is training. Do you understand?" "Yes, instructor," the class replied in unison. Yuna said nothing, but she nodded. The students were assigned to ships. Yuna was paired with Hyejin again. The blue-skinned girl seemed relieved. "At least you're calm," Hyejin said as they walked to their fighter. "Some of the others are so nervous they're making me nervous." Yuna glanced around. Hyejin was right. Several students looked pale. One was breathing rapidly. Another kept checking and rechecking their flight suit. "First time is always scary," Yuna said quietly. "Have you flown before? In space, I mean?" "Some. Basic training on Earth." Yuna didn't mention that she had been flying shuttles since she was 14, that she had logged more hours in atmosphere and in space than most of her classmates combined. They didn't need to know that. They climbed into the fighter. Yejin took the pilot's seat. Yuna was navigator again. The cockpit smelled like metal and recycled air. The controls glowed softly. "Pre-flight check," Yejin said, her voice shaking slightly. Yuna read through the checklist calmly, helping Yejin with each step. When everything was ready, they launched. Space was silent and vast. The Academy station fell away behind them. Ahead, a marked training zone waited, outlined by beacon lights. "All fighters begin maneuvers." Velrix's voice crackled over the comm. Yejin flew carefully, following the prescribed patterns. Bank left, roll right, climb, dive. Basic movements. Yuna called out sensor readings and kept track of the other fighters nearby. Everything went smoothly until one of the other ships lost control. The pilot panicked and fired thrusters erratically. His ship spun wildly toward an asteroid. "Cadet Jinho, stabilize," Velrix ordered, but Jinho couldn't. His ship tumbled end over end. Yuna watched the trajectory. She calculated the spin rate, the vector, the time to impact. "Hyejin, move to intercept point Gamma 7. "What? Why? Just do it, please." Hyejin trusted her. She changed course. They arrived just as Jinho's ship finished its tumble. Hyejin matched his spin and Yuna fired a magnetic tether. The cable locked onto Jinho's hull and stabilized him. "Tether secure," Yuna reported. "Cadet Jinho is stable." Velrix's voice held surprise. "Well executed, Navigator Yuna. Bring him back to the bay." After the exercise, Jinho found Yuna in the locker room. "Thank you," he said. "I thought I was going to die." "You weren't going to die," Yuna said. "The instructors would have caught you. We were just closer." But she saw the gratitude in his eyes. Word would spread about this. She didn't know if that was good or bad yet. In the following days, training intensified. They moved from basic maneuvers to combat drills. Simulated weapons, but real flying, real competition. Deho dominated every exercise. His forearms gave him an advantage in multitasking. He could manage weapons, shields, and navigation simultaneously. He was fast, aggressive, and skilled. He was also arrogant. "Another perfect score," Deho announced after one drill, loud enough for everyone to hear. "That's 15 in a row." His friends congratulated him. Taewon clapped him on the shoulder. Minho, a tall student with ridge-covered skin, laughed. "You're making the rest of us look bad." "Then fly better," Deho said, but he was smiling. Yuna watched from across the bay. She noticed how Deho flew. Aggressive, yes. Skilled, absolutely. But predictable. He always attacked from the same angles. He always used the same combination of moves. He won because he was faster and stronger than most opponents, not because he adapted. She filed that observation away. Later that week, something changed in the dormitory. Small things started going wrong for Yuna. Her training manuals disappeared from her desk. She found them eventually hidden in the recycling chute. Her simulator settings were changed, making her controls oversensitive. She recalibrated them without complaint. Someone started a rumor that humans became violent when stressed, that it was only a matter of time before Yuna snapped and hurt someone. Yuna knew who was behind it. Minho and his friends. They sat near Deho in class. They laughed at jokes about Deathworlders. They thought they were clever, Hyejin noticed. "Why don't you report them?" she asked one day at lunch. She had started sitting with Yuna sometimes despite the social cost. "Report what?" Yuna asked. "They haven't broken any rules. They're just being children. But it's not fair." "Fair?" Yuna looked at her. "Life isn't fair. Earth taught me that. If I report them, I look weak. If I fight them, I prove their rumors right. So I do nothing, I adapt. I keep learning." Hyejin shook her head. "I don't understand you." "I know," Yuna said simply. The pressure continued to build. In combat theory class, Instructor Velrix discussed philosophy. "A true warrior imposes their will on the battlefield," the instructor said. "You must be aggressive, decisive, overwhelming. Your enemy must fear you before the fight even begins." Yuna listened but didn't agree. That worked if you were stronger. But what if you weren't? What if your enemy had more weapons, more armor, more allies? Earth's history was full of examples where the smaller force won through strategy, patience, and adaptation. But she didn't argue. She just took notes. After class, Deho stood and stretched all four arms. "Instructor Velrix is right," he said loudly. "Combat is about dominance, about showing strength." His eyes found Yuna. "Some species understand that. Others just hide and hope for the best." Several students laughed. Yuna gathered her notes and stood to leave. "Hey, human," Deho called. "I'm talking to you." Yuna stopped and turned. "I heard you. Don't you have anything to say? Any human wisdom to share?" His voice dripped with mockery. The classroom went silent. Everyone watched. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. She could respond with anger. She could challenge him. She could prove she wasn't weak. Or she could do what she came here to do. Learn. "No," she said simply. "I don't." She walked out. Behind her she heard laughter and whispered comments. Let them laugh. Their opinions didn't matter, but Deho wasn't finished. The next day in the simulator bay he made a public challenge. "Instructor Velrix," he said, his voice carrying across the entire bay. "I request a demonstration match." "Against whom?" the instructor asked. "Against any cadet who thinks they can beat me." Deho's eyes scanned the room and landed on Yuna. "Perhaps our quiet human wants to try? She's been studying us all so carefully. Maybe she learned something." Every student turned to look at Yuna. She stood near her assigned pod, helmet in hand, expression neutral. "Cadet Yuna," Velrix said, "do you accept this challenge?" Yuna considered. This was a trap. If she refused, she looked afraid. If she accepted and lost, it would confirm everyone's beliefs about humans being inferior. If she accepted and won, but that seemed unlikely. Deho had been training his entire life. He had advantages she didn't, but she had been watching him for 3 weeks. She knew how he moved, how he thought, how he attacked. She had studied his patterns in every single drill and exercise. She looked at Deho, then at Velrix. Then back to Deho. "Yes," she said quietly. "I accept." The room erupted in excited chatter. Velrix held up a crystalline hand for silence. "Very well. The match will take place at the end of this week. Standard combat rules. Simulated weapons, full contact space combat. 20-minute time limit or until one fighter ship is eliminated." The instructor paused. "This is still a learning exercise. Fight with honor." Deho grinned. "Of course, instructor." The next few days were strange. Word of the challenge spread through the entire academy. Students from other classes came to watch training sessions. Betting pools started. The odds heavily favored Deho. 12-1, Yuna heard. She didn't care about the odds. Deho trained publicly. He ran drills in the main simulator bay where everyone could watch. He practiced aggressive maneuvers, flashy spins, overwhelming firepower. Crowds gathered to watch him. Yuna was never seen training. She attended her regular classes, ate her meals, and returned to her room each night. But late at night, when the simulator bay was empty, she was there. Running scenarios, testing theories, learning. Yejin visited her room the night before the match. "You don't have to do this," she said. "Everyone knows Deho is better. No one will think less of you if you withdraw." Yuna was sitting on her bed cleaning her flight suit. "Yes, they will. And more importantly, I would think less of me. But you'll lose." "Maybe." Yuna looked up. "Maybe not. Deho has been training for this his whole life. His species are natural pilots. 4 arms, enhanced reflexes, perfect spatial awareness. What do you have?" Yuna smiled slightly. "I have something better. I'm human." Hyejin didn't understand, but she hugged Yuna anyway. "Good luck tomorrow." That night, Yuna didn't train. She sat at her window and looked out at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere far away. A brutal world that had shaped brutal survivors. The combat arena was packed. Over 800 students filled the observation decks. Instructors stood in the command center. Even some senior staff had come to watch. The Deathworlder against the Academy's top fighter. It was the most anticipated match of the year. Yuna stood in the preparation bay alone. Her flight suit was clean and properly sealed. Her helmet rested on the bench beside her. She sat with her eyes closed, breathing slowly. In and out. In and out. She could hear the crowd through the walls. Excited voices cheering. Most of them were cheering for Deho. That was fine. The door opened. Hyejin peeked in. "Can I come in?" Yuna opened her eyes and nodded. Yejin sat beside her. The betting pools have you at 12-1 odds. Some are even higher, 20-1. Good odds for anyone betting on me, Yuna said calmly. Are you nervous? No. Scared? No, Yejin studied her face. You're really not, are you? How? Yuna picked up her helmet and turned it in her hands. On Earth, my grandfather taught me to hunt. Real hunting in the wild. He told me that fear is just information. It tells you there's danger. Once you acknowledge the danger and prepare for it, fear has done its job. Then you let it go. And you've prepared? Yuna smiled slightly. For 3 weeks. Every moment, Hijin squeezed her shoulder. Then show them what humans can do. In the other preparation bay, Daiho stretched his forearms and practiced quick movements. His friends surrounded him, offering encouragement and advice. Remember, he's probably going to run, Minho said. Humans are persistent but not brave. Chase him down fast. I know, Daiho said. He felt confident. He had reviewed Yuna's training scores. Average, not bad, but nothing special. She had never scored in the top 10 of any exercise. She was careful and competent, but that wouldn't be enough today. Taewon helped him seal his flight suit. Make it quick. Don't embarrass her too badly, Daiho nodded. He wasn't cruel. He would defeat her efficiently and honorably. That would be enough. Instructor Velrix's voice boomed through both preparation bays. Fighters, report to your ships. The match begins in 5 minutes. Yuna stood, put on her helmet, and walked to the launch bay. Her fighter was sleek and gray. Standard Academy issue. She climbed into the cockpit and began pre-flight checks. Everything was perfect. The canopy closed. The cockpit pressurized. Yuna connected her suit to the ship's systems and felt the familiar hum of power. All systems green, she reported over the comm. All systems green. Daiho echoed from his fighter. The combat arena was a massive space, 50 kilometers in every direction. It contained asteroid fields, debris clouds, and sensor disrupting zones. Plenty of room to maneuver. Plenty of places to hide or fight. Velrix's voice came over the open channel. The rules are simple. Simulated weapons only. The match ends when one ship is eliminated or 20 minutes expire. If both ships survive, the match is judged on damage dealt and tactical performance. Fight with honor. Begin when the signal sounds. The countdown appeared on Yuna's display. 10 seconds. 9, 8. She closed her eyes and took one deep breath. 7, 6, 5. She reviewed everything she knew about Daiho. His patterns. His preferences. His weaknesses. 4, 3, 2. She opened her eyes. 1. The signal sounded. Daiho immediately ignited his thrusters and shot forward. Aggressive, direct, he would close the distance fast and overwhelm her with firepower. It was his standard opening. Yuna expected this. She had seen him do it 15 times in practice. She fired her thrusters and moved perpendicular to his approach, diving toward the nearest asteroid field. Already running, someone in the observation deck said. Laughter followed, Daiho pursued. His ship was faster. He would catch her quickly. He fired a burst of simulated laser fire. The shots missed but came close. Yuna jinked left, then right, then dropped suddenly. The movement seemed desperate, barely controlled. She was flying defensively, reactively. She's panicking, Minho said from the observation deck. But Hyejin watched more carefully. Yuna wasn't panicking. Every move had purpose. She was drawing Daiho forward, making him commit to the chase. 3 minutes passed. Daiho fired repeatedly. A few shots clipped Yuna's shields. Her ship's systems registered minor damage. First blood, Daiho said over the open comm. Give up now and I'll make this quick. Yuna didn't respond. She dove into an asteroid field, weaving between the tumbling rocks. Daiho followed without hesitation. His forearms worked the controls flawlessly. He was completely confident. The asteroids were obstacles, but nothing he couldn't handle. 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes. Daiho was starting to feel frustrated. He should have ended this by now. The human was slippery, always just out of reach. She kept leading him through tighter and tighter spaces. In the command center, Velrix watched the tactical display. The instructor's crystalline eyes narrowed. She's not running, Velrix said quietly. Instructor? Another teacher asked. Look at her flight path. It's not random. She's mapping the asteroids, and she's mapping him. On the display, Yuna's ship made another tight turn. Daiho followed, firing. Another hit. Yuna's shields dropped to 60%. But something was different now. Each time Deho fired, Yuna's evasion was more precise. She dodged by smaller margins. It was as if she knew exactly when and where he would shoot, because she did. She had spent 3 weeks studying him. She knew his firing rhythm, his preferred targeting solutions, his reflexes. Every time he shot, she learned more. She was calibrating her responses to his attack patterns. 12 minutes. Yuna led him into a debris field filled with broken ship parts and metal fragments. Deho followed, still confident. He fired another burst. This time Yuna didn't just dodge. She dodged in a specific direction, forcing him to turn harder to track her. That turn exposed his rear sensor array for a fraction of a second. Yuna fired. One shot, perfectly placed. Deho's rear sensors went dark. What? Now he was partially blind. He could still fight, but his situational awareness was compromised. He had to rely on forward sensors and manual visual scanning. The observation deck went silent. Did she just... Someone started. She hit his sensors, Hyejin said, her voice filled with awe. She deliberately led him into that position. 14 minutes. Yuna's flying pattern changed. She was no longer running. Now she was moving with purpose, controlling the engagement. She led Deho toward a sensor-disrupting cloud, a zone filled with particles that jammed most scanning equipment. Deho hesitated. Going into that cloud while partially blind was dangerous. But the human was right there. He could see her ship. Pride made the decision for him. He followed her in. The cloud swallowed both ships. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Sensors were useless. It was like flying blind. Deho fired where he thought Yuna would be. Nothing. He spun, searching. Where was she? Yuna was exactly where she had planned to be. In the three-dimensional space of the cloud, she had positioned herself in Deho's blind spot. The exact location where his disabled rear sensors would have detected her, but his forward sensors couldn't see her. A blind spot that only existed because she had created it. She had been calculating this position for 14 minutes. Every turn, every movement had been part of the setup. She fired one shot, clean, precise, directly into Deho's simulated reactor housing. The combat computer registered a critical hit. Fatal damage. Deho's ship system shut down. Simulation terminated. Victor. Cadet Yuna. Time, 17 minutes, 34 seconds. The observation deck was absolutely silent. Yuna's ship emerged from the cloud and flew calmly back toward the docking bay. She wasn't celebrating. She wasn't gloating. She was simply done. Deho sat in his disabled ship staring at his screens in disbelief. The simulation replayed his final moments. He watched Yuna's shot thread through his defenses like she knew exactly where he would be. Because she did know. He had been fighting a ghost. No, not a ghost, a hunter. And he had been the prey. The observation deck erupted. Students were shouting, arguing, demanding to see the replay. The instructors were already reviewing the combat footage. Velrix watched the entire match again from beginning to end. Every movement Yuna made had meaning. She had spent the first 14 minutes learning and preparing. The last 3 minutes executing a plan that Deho never saw coming. Incredible, the instructor whispered. Yuna docked her ship and climbed out. Her movements were calm, professional. She removed her helmet and walked toward the exit. Hyejin ran to her and hugged her fiercely. You did it. You actually did it. Yes, Yuna said simply. How? How did you beat him? I watched him, Yuna replied. I learned how he thinks, how he moves. Then I used that knowledge. Deho's ship docked. He climbed out slowly. His friends gathered around him, but they didn't know what to say. He had never lost before. Deho looked across the bay and saw Yuna standing with Hyejin. She wasn't celebrating. She wasn't boasting. She just looked ready for whatever came next. He walked over to her. The entire bay watched. Yuna turned to face him. She didn't look afraid or triumphant, just calm. Deho stood before her for a long moment. Then he did something no one expected. He bowed. A full, respectful bow. I underestimated you, he said. I have never been outmaneuvered like that before. You're a good fighter, Yuna said. Fast, strong, skilled, but predictable, Deho finished. You saw that, didn't you? From the beginning, yes. Teach me. The words came out before he could stop them. The morning after the match, everything was different. Students who had ignored Yuna now nodded when they passed her in the halls. The whispers changed from mockery to curiosity. Someone had edited the combat footage into a highlight video that was spreading through the entire academy. Yuna still sat alone at breakfast, but now it was by choice rather than isolation. Several students had asked to join her. She had politely declined. She needed time to think. The door to the cafeteria opened. Instructor Velrix entered, moving slowly through the crowded room. The massive crystalline instructor stopped at Yuna's table. "Cadet Yuna, my office now." The cafeteria went quiet. Being summoned to an instructor's office could mean many things. None of them were usually good. Yuna stood, left her half-eaten breakfast, and followed Velrix out. Students watched them go, whispering. The instructor's office was filled with trophies and weapons from dozens of worlds. Battle honors hung on the walls. This was the room of a warrior who had seen real combat, not just training exercises. Velrix sat behind a desk that seemed too small for the instructor's massive frame. "Sit," Yuna sat. "You deliberately hid your abilities," Velrix said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, instructor. Why?" Yuna met the instructor's three-eyed gaze. "I needed to observe first. Every species here moves differently, thinks differently. I needed to understand how you all fight before I could fight effectively." "And you studied us? All of us? Every simulator session? Every training exercise? Every public match? Yes." Velrix leaned back. The chair creaked. "This is not how we teach combat here. We teach pilots to impose their nature on the battlefield. To be aggressive, dominant. I know. I've been listening. But you don't fight that way." Yuna shook her head. "Humans are adaptable, instructor. That's what makes us dangerous. We don't have armored skin like some species. We don't have forearms or natural weapons or enhanced senses. What we have is pattern recognition and endurance. I can't outmuscle Deho's species, but I can outlast them and outthink them." Velrix was silent for a long moment. The crystalline face was hard to read, but Yuna thought she saw something like respect there. "Your homeworld made you this way," the instructor finally said. "Earth is a death world," Yuna agreed. "Everything there is trying to kill you. Weather, predators, disease, other humans. We survive by being flexible, by studying our threats, by never giving up. That's what I brought here. And you think this approach is superior to ours? Not superior. Different. Every species should fight according to their nature. But understanding your opponent's nature is just as important as expressing your own." Velrix stood and walked to the window. The instructor looked out at the stars. "I have trained warriors for 70 years. I thought I understood combat. Yesterday, a human cadet showed me I was wrong. Or at least incomplete. You're not wrong, instructor. Your methods produce excellent fighters. Deho is genuinely skilled. But he lost to you. He lost because he didn't know me. If we fought again tomorrow, it would be harder for me. He's learning, adapting." Velrix turned back. "You would teach him?" "I already agreed to. Why?" "He was cruel to you. He and his friends made your life difficult." Yuna shrugged. "That doesn't matter now. He showed respect after the match. He's willing to learn." "That's enough." The instructor returned to the desk. "You are an unusual human, Cadet Yuna." "I'm just trying to survive and learn, instructor." "Same as everyone else." "No, not the same. Dismissed." Yuna stood, saluted, and left. She didn't know if that conversation had been good or bad. But at least she was honest. Over the next week, things continued to change. Deho approached her during simulator training. "Can we practice together?" he asked. "I want to understand how you read patterns." They started training as partners. Yuna showed him how she watched for tells, tiny movements that predicted larger actions, how she tracked not just where an opponent was, but where they would be. "You have to think ahead," she explained. "Not one move, but 3 or 4 moves. Like a game." Deho worked his forearms through a practice sequence. "This is harder than just fighting." "Yes, but it makes you better." Other students joined their practice sessions. Heejin was first, then Taewon, then others. Even Minho came looking embarrassed. "I'm sorry," he said to Yuna when they were alone. "For the pranks. For the rumors. I was scared of you because you're from a death world and I dealt with that fear badly." "It's okay," Yuna said. "It's not okay. But thank you for saying so." They shook hands and Minho became one of her regular training partners. The training sessions were productive. Students began incorporating observation into their fighting styles. The Vrelians learned to use their forearms more efficiently. The Soltharians learned to use their echolocation in combat. Everyone improved. but not everyone was happy about it. Instructor Taeyang, a rigid Kethran who taught advanced tactics, confronted Velrix in the staff room. "You're allowing this human to corrupt our training methods," Taeyang said, his voice sharp. "She teaches passivity. Observation over action. This dishonors warrior tradition." "She teaches awareness," Velrix replied calmly. "That is not the same as passivity. She teaches students to be cautious, hesitant. A warrior must be bold. A warrior must also be alive. Boldness without intelligence is just suicide." Taeyang's face darkened. "If we continue this path, we will produce pilots who hesitate in critical moments, who overthink instead of act. That will get people killed." Velrix stood towering over the other instructor. "Taeyang, watch the match footage again. Watch how Yuna never hesitated." She observed, yes, but when she acted, every action was precise and decisive. That is not weakness. That is mastery. But Taeyang was not convinced. He began teaching his classes with emphasis on immediate aggression, loudly contradicting what Yuna's group was practicing. The student body became divided. Some followed Taeyang's traditional methods. Others adopted Yuna's observational approach. Arguments broke out in the cafeteria and training bays. One day, Taeyang confronted Yuna directly after a simulator session. "Human, you are teaching students to fear combat." Yuna looked up at the tall instructor. "No, sir. I'm teaching them to understand combat. Understanding comes from experience, from fighting, not from watching. With respect, instructor, watching is how you learn from others' experiences. You don't have to make every mistake yourself if you can learn from seeing others make them." That is coward's logic. The training bay went silent. Several students stopped what they were doing. Yuna kept her voice calm and respectful. "Instructor Taeyang, on Earth we have an old saying. The student who asks is a fool for 5 minutes. The student who doesn't ask is a fool forever. Observation is just another form of asking. We watch to learn what works and what doesn't. And what has your observation taught you about me, human?" It was a challenge, a trap. If Yuna pointed out the instructor's flaws, she would be disrespectful. If she backed down, she would lose credibility. She chose a third path. "You are a warrior who values honor and tradition," Yuna said carefully. "You believe in the nobility of direct combat. You have probably won many battles through courage and skill. These are admirable qualities and students should learn them." Taeyang's expression softened slightly, surprised by the respectful answer. "However," Yuna continued, "the galaxy is changing. New threats emerge. New tactics develop. If we only fight the way we've always fought, we become predictable, and predictable warriors die. I don't teach students to abandon your methods. I teach them to add observation to their existing skills, to be both bold and aware." Taeyang studied her for a long moment. "You speak well, human, but words are easy. Proving your methods in real combat is harder." "I agree, instructor. I look forward to the opportunity." The instructor nodded once and left. The students exhaled collectively. "That was brave," Hyejin whispered. "He could make your life very difficult." "Maybe," Yuna said. "But he's not wrong to question new methods. Good instructors should challenge ideas. That's how we improve." 3 days later, the opportunity Taeyang mentioned arrived unexpectedly. An emergency alarm blared through the academy. All students and instructors rushed to the command center. The large display showed a distress signal. A civilian transport ship carrying 3,000 passengers was under attack. Pirates. The ship was losing power, venting atmosphere. It would be destroyed within the hour. "The elite squadron is 3 hours away on training exercises," the duty officer reported. "We have no assets close enough to respond." Commander Isra, the academy's director, studied the tactical display. "What about the advanced cadets?" "They're not ready for real combat," Taeyang protested. "Neither are those 3,000 civilians ready to die," Isra replied sharply. Velrix stepped forward. "I recommend we deploy the advanced training class. 12 fighters. It's enough to engage. Who will lead them?" Isra asked. Everyone looked at the rankings. Deho was top of the class. He should lead, but Deho spoke up. "Commander, I request that Cadet Yuna coordinate tactics. I'll lead the strike element, but she should direct strategy." Taeyang objected immediately. "This is unprecedented. She has no command experience." "She has 3 weeks of observation on all of us," Deho countered. "She knows how we fight better than we know ourselves. If we're going into real combat, I want the tactical advantage." Isra looked at Yuna. Cadet, can you do this? The civilian transport ship loomed ahead, massive and wounded. Its hull showed blast marks. Atmosphere vented from 3 breaches. Emergency lights flickered across its surface. Around it, like predators circling prey, 8 pirate fighters darted and fired. Yuna watched the tactical display during the 35-minute flight. She studied the pirates' movement patterns, their attack formations, their behavior. They were experienced. They knew what they were doing. All fighters, listen carefully, Yuna said over the comm. These pirates are hit-and-run specialists. They rely on speed and chaos. They expect us to attack head-on, because that's what most military forces do. We're not going to do that. Then what's the plan? Taewon asked. His voice was steady, but Yuna heard the tension underneath. We split into 3 groups. Daeho, you take Taewon, Minho, and Jinho. You're the bait team. Hyejin, you take Bora, Somin, and Kun. You're the defense team. I'll take Dasom, Nari, and Hwan. We're the trap team. She transmitted the tactical plan to their displays. Defense team protects the transport and starts emergency evacuations. Bait team engages the pirates and draws them away from the transport. Trap team stays silent, minimal power signature, and positions behind the pirates when they commit to chasing the bait. That's risky, Minho said. What if they don't take the bait? They will. Pirates are confident and aggressive. They'll see 4 fighters as easy targets. They won't be able to resist. And if you're wrong, someone asked, then we adapt. But I'm not wrong. I've been watching their attack patterns for 30 minutes. They're predictable. As they approached the combat zone, Yuna's team went silent running. Minimal engines, minimal heat signature, minimal everything. They drifted like debris unnoticed. The defense team broke off toward the transport. The bait team accelerated toward the pirates. This is Academy Fighter Wing. Daeho broadcast on open channels. Pirates, you are ordered to stand down immediately. The pirates responded with weapons fire and laughter. Academy babies, one pirate sneered. This will be easy. Daeho and his team engaged. But they didn't fight to win. They fought to draw attention. They took a few hits, let their shields spark and flicker. They flew aggressively enough to seem dangerous, but defensively enough to seem vulnerable. The pirates took the bait. 4 of them peeled off to chase Daeho's team. Another 2 followed when they saw what looked like an easy victory. 6 on us, Daeho reported. Yuna, they're committed. Copy that. Lead them to the asteroid field, marker 7. Defense team, how's the transport? Shields are holding, Hyejin responded. We're covering the evacuation shuttles. 2 pirates still here, but they're keeping their distance. Perfect. Yuna's team drifted closer, still undetected. They positioned themselves in the shadow of a large asteroid, waiting. Daeho led the pirates into the asteroid field. The pirates pursued eagerly, firing constantly. They were confident, maybe overconfident. 6 experienced fighters against 4 cadets. This should be quick. But Daeho's team flew through the asteroids with surprising skill. They dodged, weaved, and used the terrain well. The pirates had to work harder than they expected. Now, Yuna said quietly. Her team activated their systems. Engines flared. Weapons came online. Suddenly, 4 more Academy fighters appeared from nowhere, positioned perfectly behind and above the pirates. The pirates barely had time to react. Yuna fired first, targeting the lead pirate's engines. Direct hit. The ship spun out of control and crashed into an asteroid. Her team fired in coordinated volleys. 2 more pirate ships took critical damage. 1 exploded. 1 went dark, systems failing. The remaining 3 pirates tried to scatter, but now they were trapped between 2 forces in a confined asteroid field. Panic replaced confidence. Break off! The pirate leader screamed. It's a trap! Daeho's team turned and attacked from the front. Yuna's team pressed from behind. The pirates had nowhere to go. Within minutes, 2 more were disabled. The last one tried to flee back toward the transport. Big mistake. Hyejin, you have one coming your way, Yuna warned. I see him. The pirate flew directly into the defense team's firing solution. Hyejin and her team fired as one. The pirate ship erupted in a silent explosion. The 2 pirates that had stayed near the transport saw what happened to their friends. They immediately fled, jumping to hyperspace without even trying to fight. The engagement was over. Total time 11 minutes. 8 pirate ships, 3 destroyed, 3 disabled, 2 fled. 0 Academy casualties. Only minor damage to 3 fighters. The command center at the Academy erupted in cheers. Commander Isra watched the tactical replay in silence, then nodded slowly. Incredible, Velric said. Absolutely incredible. Even Taeyang looked impressed, though he tried to hide it. Back in space, Yuna's hands were shaking slightly on her controls. Adrenaline. Real combat was different from simulations. The fear was real. The stakes were real, but they had won. They had saved the transport. All fighters, excellent work, she said over the comm. Return to the transport and assist with evacuation procedures. Defense team takes point. Bait team provides cover. Trap team secures the perimeter. Yuna, Daeho said. That was brilliant. How did you know they'd fall for it? Pirates are predators. Predators chase prey that runs. You ran and they couldn't resist. It's basic behavior. You learned that on Earth? My grandfather taught me. He said the best way to catch a predator is to make yourself look like prey. Then you become the hunter. Emergency ships arrived from the academy within 20 minutes. The evacuation proceeded smoothly. All 3,000 passengers were saved. Several thanked the cadets personally, some with tears in their eyes. Back at the academy, the landing bay was packed with students and staff. As the 12 fighters docked, applause filled the hangar. The cadets emerged from their cockpits, tired but alive. Commander Isra stood waiting. Cadets, you performed admirably. You saved 3,000 lives today. The Federation will hear of this. Daeho stepped forward and saluted. Commander, credit belongs to Cadet Yuna. Her tactical plan was perfect. Isra looked at Yuna. Cadet, that was extraordinary tactical awareness. You coordinated 12 fighters against experienced enemies and won without casualties. How? Yuna thought about her answer. I know my team, Commander. I've trained with them, watched them, learned their capabilities. I knew what they could do. I just positioned them to succeed. And the pirates? I watched them for 35 minutes before engaging. They had patterns, preferences, behaviors. Once I understood them, I could predict them. Commander Isra nodded slowly. You are being recommended for early promotion to advanced tactical training. Thank you, Commander. But I'd prefer to stay with my class. Isra raised an eyebrow. Why? Because we're just starting to learn how to work together. I think we can become better. All of us, Daeho laughed and clapped his four hands together. Of course, the human chooses the harder path. That evening, a ceremony was held in the main hall. All 12 cadets received commendations for bravery. The footage of the battle was shown, and tactical instructors analyzed the maneuvers. Instructor Velrix spoke to the assembled academy. I have trained warriors from 17 different species. I have taught combat for 70 years. Today, I learned something important. Observation is not weakness. Adaptation is not cowardice. Understanding your team and your enemy is not passive. It is strategic mastery. The instructor paused. A human cadet from a death world showed us that there are many paths to victory. Aggression and honor are valuable. But so are patience and intelligence. The best warriors combine all these qualities. After the ceremony, instructor Taeyang approached Yuna privately. She tensed, unsure what to expect. I was wrong, Taeyang said simply. Adaptation is not weakness. It is perhaps the greatest strength. You have taught this old warrior something new, and for that I thank you. He bowed respectfully. Yuna bowed back. You weren't wrong, instructor. Boldness and honor are essential. I just showed that observation can complement those qualities, not replace them. Taeyang smiled slightly. You are diplomatic as well as tactical. The galaxy will hear much about you, I think. Back in her dormitory, Yuna found her room filled with classmates. The group that had once avoided her or mocked her now gathered eagerly, wanting to discuss tactics and strategy. Show us that move you did, Minho said, the silent running approach. Tell us how you predicted the pirates would chase Daeho, Bora added. Yuna looked around at their faces. Daeho, who had learned to respect adaptation. Yejin, who had been her first friend here. Minho, who had apologized for his fear-driven cruelty. Taewon, Jinho, and all the others. They were a team now. A real team. Okay, she said, smiling. Let's review what we did right and what we can improve. They spread out tactical displays and started analyzing the battle. Everyone contributed ideas. Everyone learned from each other. The Vrelians taught their coordination techniques. The Siltharians explained their sensory advantages. The humans, well, Yuna, taught observation and pattern recognition. Different species, different strengths working together. That was the real lesson. Hours later, when everyone had finally left, Hyejin lingered at the door. You know what I realized today? What? Yuna asked. You never wanted to prove you were better than us. You just wanted us all to become better together. Yuna smiled. Earth is a dangerous place. Humans survive by working together.